An abandoned baby bird fell in love with this woman. Look how different he looks 1 year later. This story happened back at the start of 2021 in Kauai, which is an island in the Central Pacific and is part of the Hawaiian archipelago. It's nicknamed the Garden Isle thanks to the tropical rainforest covering much of its surface. As lots of people know, rainforests are usually great places for hundreds of different species of plants and animals to live in. And on this island, one of the species of animals is a type of bird called a Java sparrow, which is the focus of this story. Carol and her husband were enjoying a nice day at their home. Everything was going as it normally would, but that soon changed. Carol's husband headed over to the neighbor's house to spend a bit of time with his friend. The two men were spending some time in the garden, talking and having a good time. That's when Carol's husband noticed something strange moving about in the grass. Curious what it could be, he crept closer, cautious in case it was something dangerous. But what he found completely shocked him. There, wiggling around in the wet grass, was a tiny, featherless Java sparrow. The small bird was clearly only very young, as his feathers were only just growing on his wings, whilst the rest of him was just pink skin. Carol's husband picked the small animal up so that he wouldn't accidentally hurt it and held it carefully in his hands. The man was stunned at what he had found, but he was also worried about what to do with the animal next. At first, he looked around the garden closely to see if he could spot the young bird's parents, but after a few minutes of searching, the adult Java sparrows were nowhere to be found. Knowing that he couldn't just leave the baby all on its own, as it surely wouldn't survive the night, the kind-hearted man took the young animal back home to his wife. When he showed Carol the small bird, she couldn't believe it. Just like her husband, Carol thought that the small bird must have fallen out of its nest by accident, and that its parents were surely looking for it. So, not wanting to separate the animal from its natural family, Carol took the small bird back to her neighbor's garden and had another thorough look for the nest or the parents. Sadly, she could find neither, so she took the bird back to her home filled with the determination to help it grow into a proper adult. Looking after a baby bird is no simple task though, as Carol soon found out. I had to feed him every hour or two from sunrise to sunset, she said in an interview. After that period of just figuring out what we should do, then it became the realization that we have a bird we're raising in our house. Whilst raising the young chick, Carol went back to her neighbor's garden every day to see if she could spot the animal's parents. But as the days went by, there was still no sign of them, and it was up to Carol and her husband to continue raising the young bird, who they call Mr. Baby Snuggles. The only problem was, the couple also had a rescue cat called Maurice who lived with them. And if you've seen the Looney Tunes, you'll know that cats and birds aren't the best of friends. Just look at Tweety Pie and Sylvester. But Carol and her husband would not be put off. We worked really hard to teach Maurice that the bird was not something to be played with, Carol said in an interview. But it seemed as if the couple had nothing to worry about, as Mr. Snuggles fell in love with Maurice and loved to be near the feline whenever he could. The cat also seemed to like the bird as well, as he never tried to attack him. Along with Maurice and Mr. Snuggles, Carol also owned a couple of bunnies, who the cheeky little bird loved to play with as well. He likes to pull their whiskers while they're eating, she said. Luckily, the bunnies didn't take too much offense at this, as they have shown no signs of aggression towards the little bird. As Mr. Snuggles got older, it soon came time for him to learn how to fly. But without his avian parents, it was up to Carol and her husband to teach him the very important life skill. The way that I could bribe him to work on flying was with his feeding syringe, said Carol, because he was so imprinted on the syringe that any time he saw it, he wanted it. And this inventive method actually worked. The little Java bird was soon a fabulous flyer who loved to zip around the house to get to wherever he wanted to be. But despite loving the cheeky and very adorable bird, Carol still wanted him to live his life in the wild and not as a pet. But because humans cared for him when he was only very little, Mr. Snuggles ended up imprinting on humans, which meant that he would never be a fully wild animal. Knowing that this was the situation, Carol decided on a soft release approach to get the bird used to its natural habitat, whilst also providing him with the comfort of his home. This resulted in Mr. Snuggles spending the day with the humans who rescued him and spending the night with his flock of Java sparrows in the trees outside. Mr. Snuggles has made friends with a flock of Java sparrows, which has around 200 of the birds in it. Every morning, Carol would wake up and feed Mr. Snuggles and his 200 friends breakfast, and would repeat the process again later in the evening for their dinner. When I feed, I can't tell the difference between any of them, she said. But it's not as big of a problem as you might think. This is because she and Mr. Snuggles talk to one another. When Carol wants Mr. Snuggles' attention, all she has to do is make a couple of clicking noises. When the cheeky little bird hears this noise, he instantly perks up and responds to her with a couple of clicks of his own. During the day, Mr. Snuggles loves to be in the house with his humans. He has free reign of the home as the couple do not have a cage for him, nor do they want one, as they love the adorable little sparrow fluttering around after them. But when sunset arrives, the cheeky bird says his goodbyes and joins his flock. The group of 200 birds then fly down to a valley which sits just below where Carol's house is so that they can nest in the trees there for the night. When morning arrives once again, Carol has her own personal alarm clock in Mr. Snuggles. This is because the little sparrow flies up to the trees nearest her bedroom and begins to sing until she gets up. But how does the little bird know how to sing when he didn't grow up around his family and other birds like him? Well, to solve this problem, Carol would go onto YouTube and play Mr. Snuggles videos of Java sparrows singing and chirping to one another. She hoped that by doing this, it would help the little bird imprint on singing and progress his development even more. It took him months, said Carol. It took maybe about 3 months for him to figure out his song. But that's all right, as he has a beautiful singing voice now. The interpersonal and interspecies bonding that we've had has been spectacular, said Carol. Carol and her husband love Hawaii, and they count all the nature that the islands hold as a blessing. They are thankful for the opportunity to have a deeper insight into nature with Mr. Snuggles. The amazing bond that Carol and Mr. Snuggles share with each other just goes to show that no matter who we are, where we are, or what we are, we can all connect in one way or another and help each other out when it is needed. What an adorable story. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for even more amazing videos.